Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Ericka Sallee of True Synergy, a personal coaching and professional development company where I help women and organizations to figure out the barriers that block their success. Now, the topic for today's conversation is how to bounce back from a stumble like a boss. But before I share the content, I do want to ask you to subscribe to this channel, yes. Share it out to your friends and family, and then turn the notifications on so that when new videos are uploaded, that you are in the know. So, recently I had the opportunity to work with a client in one of my one-on-one coaching programs. And probably after coaching session number one, accountability session between number one and session number two, I actually missed two of our sessions. And this came at a time where there were things going on in my space that I was trying to navigate through. Number one, I had just come through a time where I felt like, okay, there's so many things I need to be doing, but I can only focus on one thing. And what am I supposed to do like the last quarter of the year? And how do I want to move into the next quarter? And there was so much in that space that was a little unclear, a little bit foggy, and I kind of felt out of sorts. And then the second thing was that we had a death in the family. Now, no death is ever easy, but this one really was sudden, a shocker to my family. This was someone who was an integral part of the family that I had come to love and be a part of for so many years. And so, thinking about that, and even in a space where I had my own medical emergency, if you will, wasn't significant or severe, but just enough to remind me that there were some things that I needed to be focused on that I probably wasn't focused on. And so all of that kind of put me in this place where I literally felt like, oh my gosh, okay, what's happening? What's going on? And so I missed two of our sessions. Now, I will tell you this, one of the things that I absolutely pride myself on as it relates to servicing my customers is that I'm very diligent with scheduling and making sure that the schedule is written down, and the links are sent out for our virtual sessions, and sending reminders to say, hey, looking forward to our session, and really being committed to that. And so this is something that had not happened before. And so I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, how in the world could I allow this to happen? And as much as we'd like to say that, we as business owners, that we never make a mistake, we've always got it together every single time, let me just tell you that as part of the human race, what I realize is that yes, we do in fact make mistakes. So whether you're a business owner or you're just navigating through everyday life, it is a part of who we are. Now, that means that we also have to recognize that when we make these mistakes, when we stumble, there are things that we probably said that we shouldn't say, or things that we did that we shouldn't have done, or things that we should have done that we didn't do, and areas that we can look back and say, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to navigate through this? What am I supposed to do? How can I make it right? And so as I was processing this for myself and trying to reset with my client, I wanted to make sure that I share with you, well, what are the steps? How do you come back from a stumble? How do you get back up after you've fallen down? What do you actually do? And so here's the first step. The first step is to take ownership, to simply take ownership and say, you know what? Yep, that was me. I had to say to my client, yes, that I own that. I own the fact that I missed not once, but twice. And so just acknowledging that, a lot of times we like to point the blame at other people and other things, and, all of this stuff. Oh, it was their fault. It was somebody else's fault. And I was like, nope, that was on me. So ownership is the first step. The second step is to provide insight as to the reason for the stumble. Now, this is not about making excuses, but it is at least an opportunity to provide context as to, okay, I own that, and here's some things that were happening in order to cause that to, for me not to be part of our sessions. Here's what was going on at the time, just to give you a little bit of clarity for understanding. Again, it's not to make excuses, but I couldn't just not say anything. I couldn't say, yep, that's me, and just kind of blow it off with no other color or context to say, yeah, here's some of the things that, fed into the reason why I wasn't on my game. This is what was going on. So that's the second step. Then the third step is to figure out what to do in order to fix or to remedy so that you can reset the relationship, the connection on a good note, like in the right way, so that you can move forward with the right energy, and then I can continue to honor the agreement that we made. So what I decided to do was, I've got to make this right. So the time that we missed, I will tack that on to an additional session, so you can have additional time to a 1 hour session, or we can extend the 15 to 20 minute accountability session. And then that way you get the time that you deserve, number one, and that we committed to. So really thinking about, okay, I made this snafu, I made this mistake, I own that. Here's some of the reason why. Here's what I'm going to do to fix it. I recognize that my time with my clients is very, very valuable, and I take that to heart. And so I needed to make sure that I acknowledge the fact that this was time missed. But here's what we can do in order to fix it. So making a concession, or making an offer, or asking the person if the snafu or the stumble was with another person. It's like, what is it that I can do to make this right for us both? Right? So asking the person for some insight. As I made that offer, I said, is this something that will work for you? And absolutely in agreement on that. Okay. So figuring out how to fix it so that you can reestablish that relationship and keep moving forward in a positive way to make things whole. So here's the next step, is to do a lessons learned. It's like, okay, what have I learned from that? What was it that in that stumble was I supposed to get from the mistake? Because I do believe that our mistakes are opportunities for us to improve, to get even better, and to be able to serve better. So I had to ask myself, with everything that was going on, what could I have done differently? So one of the things that I could have done was to acknowledge where I was in that moment, and to say, hey, you know what? Do you think we can reschedule our time together? That's one. The second is to recognize that, in that moment of my own fog and feeling like I was a little bit out of sorts, I probably wasn't as focused on the calendar as I should have been. And so, to know that that was a moment that I missed, going to the calendar, looking to see, okay, who's on the schedule and all of those things. So I fell out of a process that I normally honor in a given moment when everything else is going well. So just kind of resetting or looking back at, okay, well, what do you normally do? And how did this cause you to get out of that rhythm, so that okay, this is what you normally do, and this is how to continue in that flow even when things feel a little wacko, okay? And so the last then is that after you've done the lessons learned, then you apply the lesson. So recently I had to look back and say, okay, so let me get back. Let me get back to what I know my process is to look at that schedule, see what's going on through the course of a day, to make sure that I have the right processes in place to follow through with the commitments that I've made with someone else. And so, it's very easy to sit back and just kind of say, oh, well, whatever. I made a mistake. Okay, whatever. But when we think about how that impacts other people, we really do need to step back and to say, oh, let me figure out how I can fix this. Let me figure out how I can do better so that I can be better going forward. And none of us like to admit that we've made a mistake. And especially as business owners, because why? Business owners are supposed to have it all together, have everything in order. There's never a mistake. That's not the case. The reality of it is there will be moments when we don't execute as well as we planned. There will be moments where we forget, where we miss, where something just absolutely goes over our head and you're like, oh my gosh, now what do I do? So I'm hoping that you will use these steps to be a part of your bounce back mechanism. And here's the last thing I'll say, that sometimes our fall or our stumble may not necessarily be with another person. Maybe it's within ourselves where we say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. And you're processing that through on your own. So use these steps, whether it's something that you're working with within yourself or whether it's something you have to work with someone else or a group of people. So let me go through the steps again really, really quickly. 1, take ownership. 2, provide some sort of explanation just to give clarity, just to give context. You're not making excuses. You're not blaming other people. You're basically saying, hey, this is what was happening in my space at the time, just to give you an idea of where, where I fell short. Then the next thing is to figure out what to do in order to make it right, to bring back a sense of wholeness, either with you and another person or group of people, or within yourself. Next, do a lessons learned. What am I supposed to learn from this? Is there something that I need to do differently? Is there something that I need to learn more about in order to prevent this from happening, or at least reduce the risk of it happening again in the future? And then lastly, once the lesson learned is complete, then apply the lesson. Apply the lesson. Our life is a full circle of transformation. Every moment is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to change, and transform. And when we look at our stumbles as an opportunity for our learning, growth, and transformation, then we can continue to move forward in the healthiest way possible. All right, so I do encourage you that if there is something that you want to know more about in terms of True Synergy, one-on-one coaching programs, other programs that are available, then I do encourage you to go to the website, truesynergy.org. There is an option to reach out for a free consultation so that you and I can talk about what needs you have and how I may be able to support you and or your organization in those needs. So I look forward to seeing you all again real soon. Until I do, take care and be well.